Hey guys, this is AC Locke here, and this is Building a Lifestyle Business. As you guys know, this is the podcast where, yes, we do get to meet some of the licensed affiliates from SoftWash Systems, but we're trying not to make this a SoftWash Systems infomercial. Yes, it's sponsored by SoftWash Systems, but there's a lot of people that get to a point in their lives where they don't want to have a job anymore. They want to get control of their destiny. They have this entrepreneurial spirit in them, so they decide to start a business. And some of them do start it with soft washing. So we are going to talk about that a little bit. But we really want you to get to know these different people because everybody has a different and unique story. Like my friend here, Kelly King, out in California. I'm sure we'll talk about some of the junk from California. But Kelly, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Thanks a lot, AC.
Yeah, so you're in California. So tell us the name of your company, where you're located, that kind of biographical kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we're Clearview SoftWash, and we are in Lodi, California. That's considered more northern California. We're not far from Sacramento, the capital, a little south of it by about 30 minutes or so. Yeah.
And so this is a bit of a family business. I know that your son Ryan's involved in the business, but tell me about your family. I know you got your wife and your son, and even you've got a very colorful family past, and I want you to touch on some of that there. But tell me about this whole family dynamic you got going.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So I'm married to my wife, Laura King, and she's deaf. So I know sign, and so we have a son, Ryan, that was from another marriage, but Laura just treats him just like, that he's blood, so
Right.
it works great. And we met about 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So I was online, and, my sister was encouraging me to talk to this lady that lived in Lodi. And I'm like, yeah, but she's deaf. And she's like, you could learn sign language, and so I'm like, I guess I could. So anyway, so I met Laura, and it was important to me that whoever I met would accept my son and treat my son like they were their own.
Mm-hmm.
And so we met a couple times and ended up going out on a walk. And she was like, I didn't know that me asking her to go for a walk was like so serious. She's like, oh man, I can't believe that you brought your son, the second time we met. And I'm like, it's just a little nature trail in Lodi.
Going on a walk.
And I'm like, I don't want to mess around and, date for 2 or 3, 4, 5 times and find out you don't like kids. So I brought
Yeah.
And, no games. Just find out right away if it's going to work out. And so it did. So her family, they're all entrepreneurs. So when I've been working with this company for about 15 years, and they decided to move from Lodi back to where they had moved me from, San Luis Obispo, Central California. And they had been bought out a couple times, and I just didn't trust the company anymore. And I'm like, they'll probably move us again or something, And so we decided to stay. And so I had lost my job there, and I worked with her family for a little bit doing roofing, and realized that roofing wasn't my thing. And so I started a few little businesses that didn't seem to work right. And one day I was just out cleaning my own windows, and I'm like, well, this is kind of fun, cleaning the house, seeing the difference. And I'm like, I wonder if people do this. I wonder if people, clean windows for a business. And so I, looked in the phone book at that time, because it was 2004. And I'm like, oh, there's like only 1 or 2 companies in Lodi. So I'm like, well, there's not that many. So
Right.
then I got on the internet and looked around and saw some start your own window cleaning business. So I presented it to my wife, and she's like, you want to start a business? And I'm like, well, your family does. They're gypsies, and they all have a business, and they're doing well. Maybe we could do that. And she's like,
Yeah.
all right. How much is it? And so just bought a few tools and parts to go out and clean windows. And then once I got a job that was a 2-story job, I went out and bought a ladder, so I couldn't even buy a ladder at first. I didn't have enough money. So waited till I got a job.
So I think one of the colorful things, and you glanced over it, I was waiting to see if you mentioned it because I really wanted to go there, is I remember one time I was speaking at a convention and I started talking about gypsy cleaners. And you guys come up to me afterwards, you know, offended, but not really offended, more mostly offended just to give me a hard time, and you're like, you know, I'm proud to tell you that our family, we're gypsies. And I'm like, oh, come on, you're not gypsies. They're like, no, our family, we come from gypsies. And I was just like, okay, I'm sensing here that you're serious about this. And Laura's, even though Laura is deaf, she speaks. And so, she can still speak. And she's, speaking the way that she does. And she kind of has her Laura accent. And she's like, no, we're gypsies. And I'm like, all of a sudden I realize, oh crap. I just said something from the stage and offended some people. And you guys were actually very gracious about it. But you told me the story of your wife's family and their background and what they do. And I want you to delve into that a little bit because, people have a negative connotation of gypsies, just like I did. I said, gypsy cleaners, but they are very entrepreneurial. Many, many generations back have businesses. And you were a person from the working world now exposed through marriage to this very entrepreneurial lifestyle. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh, it's pretty funny, and we weren't upset. I just thought you were mentioning it, so I might as well tell you,
That's right.
hey, guess what? Family gypsies, I remember one time when I had already started my window cleaning business and I went up to Boise, and there's a lot of the family up in Boise, Idaho. And I was at the bachelor party, and they were just barbecuing at one of the cousins' houses or something. I didn't know anyone, and I felt pretty intimidated by it was just a bunch of gypsy men, and one of them was like sitting next to me, and he looks over at me and goes, "What do you do? Do you do painting or do you do paving or what?" Because that's what the gypsy travelers do, a lot of paving
Right.
and painting and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't do either. And he's like, what? Do you have your own business? Yeah. I'm like, window cleaning. And he's like, huh, window cleaning. You make any money at that? And I'm like, it's all right. And what's the cost? What's the cost to clean windows? And we started chat, and it was just so funny that they were okay and then they also wanted to know who I was with. And once I said I'm with my wife, Laura King, and that's Fred Smith's,
Mhm.
daughter. Oh, Fred. All right. So I'm okay. I'm in. So, and they have their own language. So there's the gypsy language, but yeah, the gypsies there can be, just like in any kind of business, or there can be people that are bad and that are lying. There can be people that don't. And
Right.
our family, they call themselves travelers, and our family, not many of them travel now. Now they kind of settled down. They're not in a
Mhm.
trailer. They bought a house. They have a location. My father-in-law's right next door to our building. I'm in the building that they own, and they can't be like not honest and be in business for over 50 years. So they are honest and do and stand behind their product. And it's not like there are some gypsies that aren't, but they're honest family.
Yeah. So, it's yeah, I grew up down in Miami, Florida, and they used to talk about the gypsy pavers, and they would come and they would spray blacktop, and then two rains later, it all rinse away, and all that stuff. And it was just really, really interesting that, we all have biases and we all look at different cultures different ways. But, me getting to know you and getting to know about your father-in-law, we've had a lot of conversations about this. They're very, very entrepreneurial. And like you said, just like anything, there's going to be some gypsies out there that give the travelers a bad name, and there's going to be some out there they're just upstanding citizens that love to do business, and everything is done on the up and up. And but your father-in-law, father-in-laws can be critical sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you know where I'm going with this, right?
I think so. Yeah, he's
So
gonna
your
watch this
father-in-law
video.
at first was like, on this whole cleaning thing, he wasn't so into it or thought it was a great idea.
I didn't know you remembered that. Yeah.
I remember everything, man. I care about you. Every story
Wow.
you tell me, I
Wow.
remember.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't say anything to us when Laura and I went to him and said, "Oh, we're thinking about starting a window cleaning business." And he's like, "Oh, okay, that's great." And so, probably 5 to 7 years after that day, we're driving up to Lake Tahoe, and for some reason, we're riding together, just him and I. And he goes, "Hey, by the way," he goes, "when you said you were going to start this business, I really didn't think that you were going to make it. I figured that this was just like, okay, I'll say something nice and support you, but I don't think this is going to work, but it is working for you. That's good." So yeah, he did make that comment. I'm like, "Really? Oh, I didn't know that."
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Well, first of all, you're always in a very unique situation when you marry some man's daughter and they have visions of how well who's going to marry their daughter and how well they're going to treat her, and they're going to give her a better lifestyle than they've maybe been able to provide for them, or at least as good of a lifestyle and all. So father-in-laws can be critical. And my father-in-law was very critical of me because the first time he met me, I was actually in preaching school to become a preacher. And his opinion of people who are preachers is like, well, you couldn't make it in the regular world, so you became a preacher. So you stand up on stage and tell people what to do with their lives, and it's not really work. And so he already had a low opinion of me. And then when I became a roof cleaner, and when I got kicked out of college and came home to become a roof cleaner, and I was marrying his daughter, he actually refused to come to the wedding. And and up until like a week or two before the wedding, he was not even going to come or give away his daughter. And at the last minute, he changed his mind. But it took me years to gain, the favor of my father-in-law. And it was a real process. He didn't even start coming around or visiting until we had grandchildren. So he's just coming to see the grandchildren. And then it wasn't. I think Karen and I had been married 20 years before the first time he asked her on the phone when she would call her parents, before he even asked, well, so how's they call me Al? How's Al doing? And she was like, she got the phone. She went, "You would never believe it." I'm like, "What?" She said, "My father asked how you were doing." And we were just like, wow. And now he really, 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 really likes me because they actually come and they live with us about a third of the year here during the really either cold months or really hot months of Texas. And, Peggy comes here and gets medical stuff done and gets her surgeries done. She's had both of her hips replaced and her back worked on and everything else. And, that we bought a house that had an extra suite and everything else. And, just for them to live in when they come here. And now he thinks I'm a pretty swell guy.
It only took a lifetime.
Yeah, he actually a couple few months ago, they were getting ready to get back on the plane, and I gave him a hug and I said, "Love you, Dad." He said, "Love you too, son." So sometimes the father-in-laws, it's really hard to prove yourself. And I know you and I have talked about that some, and you earning that approval of your father-in-law, especially with such a culture that they live in.
Well, you reminded me something. You reminded me that when we were up at their cabin up in Tahoe, we were real fresh. Laura and I had only been a few months, and I think I jumped in the truck with Laura's brother and my father-in-law, and we went someplace. And so at one point, we're driving down the road, and he's kind of like, "Hey, I want to ask you a question. Like, what are your intentions with my daughter?"
Yeah.
I was like, now there was no Yellowstone back then, but now
you think you're going to the train station,
right? Yeah. So I'm like, well, I'm a marriage-minded kind of guy. I don't play around, and so I'm interested in that kind of thing, but I haven't come to that conclusion. We just met, blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, all right, okay. So I'm like, I passed that question, Yeah.
Is very interesting. Okay, cool. So, so you've got also two, Laura works in the business with you. Not as much, but you also have an admin, I think. And, but Ryan's really worked quite a bit in the business with you. So tell me about what it's like for you to work with your son as much as you do every day in the business.
Yeah, I really consider that a blessing because I do talk to a lot of people out there that their kids have moved across the country or something, and to see him every day, and then sometimes on weekends and in the evening. And so I just love that I get to see my son all the time and see him grow and try to nurture him and teaches me patience, some of the stuff he says to me. And that's, but yeah, it's been, and he can do like a lot of different things in the company. So he's done some sales, he's done, flyering and marketing and he's back on the truck because he really does like it. And
Hmm.
so back on the truck for a while, but I'm like, hey, you're gonna have to eventually be able to like be the owner, and
Right.
be
Yeah,
able
you
to
have to
be.
run this thing one day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been encouraging him to be on some of the tribe time kind of stuff, and he just isn't there yet. Like he's not really. If I make him and I push him, I'll do it. But he still wants to do behind the scenes kind of stuff. He doesn't want to be the guy in front. He doesn't want to
Right.
go to the BNI meeting that I would like him to go to. He's gone, but it's not his comfort zone. He's a S and a C. And
Mm.
so he yeah, he doesn't like that kind of stuff. But it's been great being able to work together. And when he graduated from high school, we're like, do you want to go to college? What do you want to do? And he's like, I'd really like, to work in the business and be in the business. And so he went that route.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, it is. I get to see my son every day. He works in one of my businesses, Disruptor Manufacturing, and is the sales and marketing director over there for that. And yeah, so I get to see him a lot. And it's like yesterday we got some new poles in, and we were so excited, and we're mixing and matching the different types of material and doing different flex tests and everything. And it's just kind of like fun to sit there with your son and develop new products and do business and stuff like that. Because I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of one of those types of people that, at least if you're a successful entrepreneur, you're really built to be an entrepreneur. When you go to work, it's what you're passionate about. It's fun. You like to do it. You wake up in the morning, most mornings, not every morning, but most mornings you do wake up going, man, I can't wait to get to work and, get the next thing done and push the numbers forward and all. And so, yeah, so it's part of your, I don't know, it's not really a job. It's almost like a hobby. It's what you're passionate about. And when you can do that with your family members, it is very much so a blessing for sure.
Yeah. And what you mentioning, what you're saying right now made me think about my family. They're not entrepreneurs, they just work
Mhm.
for people. And so I didn't even have that seed planted until I was with Laura to even think about it, to consider it. And then once I did do it, I'm like, oh yeah, there is a lot of other things that are headaches, but there's so many positives that I love it. But I never, when I got out of high school, thought I'm going to start a business. I wasn't that person,
Mhm.
until, until I just saw other people that were in business, and I'm like, wonder if I could do that.
Yeah, and different but similar is my wife is from a family that's go to college, get a job, start a career type of mindset. My family is very entrepreneurial. And, so Karen marrying in and being part of my family, it's amazing how much she's grown over the years and gotten very, very astute in business, has a really good business head, is very, very good with numbers and everything. And just watching, even though she didn't grow up in that, how it's, grafted onto her because of our marriage.
Yep.
You can tell people, hey, if you want to feel entrepreneurial, you need to start hanging out with gypsies.
Oh, you would. You learn a little, language too along the way.
Yeah, that's right. Learn a little language too. Cool. So you got on this entrepreneurial journey. When did SoftWash Systems come into play on this? How did you discover us? How did this all happen? How did it fit in? Tell us about that story.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd go back just a teeny bit further because I've started further ahead, but of answering this question before. And if I really think about it, probably maybe a year before that, we had a window cleaning business, and I never was wanting, or I thought about cleaning a roof.
Mhm.
We'd had a few requests when I'd show up at someone's house. They're like, I want to get my roof clean. And I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to stand on. I stood on a roof that had moss on it before, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and you're on the side that's the dirtiest with a pressure washer.
Right.
So it's always mainly a pitch, and we have tile roofs, and it's slippery. And I'm like, yeah, that's not something I want. I have employees. I don't want to put them up there and worry about them all day long.
Right.
And wonder if they hurt themselves. And so we just said, no, we don't do that pretty much. And then I've been talking to a guy named Joshua Latimer,
Mm-hmm.
and he had actually called me a few times, and we were talking about workman's comp. And I'm like, how much is your workman's comp in Wisconsin? And he goes, Kelly, what's it matter? He's like, you're in California, people are in business there. Can't
Yeah.
we just deal with it? And I'm like, okay. So then we watched other things that he was posting, and somewhere in there I saw something from Brandon Vaughn. And Brandon Vaughn was involved with SoftWash Systems with you, and so I probably texted him or chatted or something like that. He answered some questions, was real nice about it, and then he's finally like, "Hey man, why don't you just go to Discover SoftWash?" And I'm like, "What's that?" And I did my research, and so a long story short, I decided to go to Discover SoftWash, and that's how I learned about soft washing.
Have you been looking for an investor-grade home service business opportunity? SoftWash Systems is what you've been looking for. Come to Discover SoftWash and discover your potential. Learn how we provide you with the equipment, chemicals, education, and support for your soft washing business. For more information about becoming a licensed affiliate, call our Shield support agents at 855-763-8669 or visit our website www.softwashsystems.com/discover. Join the revolution. Join SoftWash Systems.
Yeah, and so when you showed up at Discover SoftWash and you looked at everything, what was the appeal for you to start soft washing with SoftWash Systems?
Oh, well, you guys having classrooms teaching it all. And it's not disorganized. I had gone to learn about air duct cleaning one time, and it was very disorganized. And you have classes, and you go out and you have hands-on, so you have everything. And then while you're there, there were other people that were further down the line than me, and they're getting their truck wrapped, and they're picking out their equipment, and so it was just appealing that it was organized and there was a way to do it. And then at that point in time, I wasn't thinking about starting a soft washing business. I just thought, oh, now we can, soft wash a roof, and we can add that on while we're cleaning a window. We can maybe clean a roof. So I hadn't put it together that I would be a soft washing business at that point.
Right. You're still thinking that you're going to do window cleaning, and soft washing was just going to be something that you would add on to your window cleaning business.
Yeah.
But you soon figured out that was not what was going to happen.
Yeah.
What actually happened?
Well, we started, we got our equipment, and we started, figuring out, well, how much are we supposed to charge for this? And you already have that, you have a guideline to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
And so you already have that, a pricing matrix, and figure out how to this, and you're like, whoa, you figure out the price is like, well, that's a lot more, that's a lot more.
A lot more than window cleaning.
Roof. Clean windows. People don't look at window cleaning like it's worth as much as it is for someone to come with a $50,000 machine and soft wash their roof with the correct chemicals, and you've been trained, and you're, now we have Ask the Seal ID badges, and, we're being taught everything. And so then when we're like, whoa, we're making a lot more soft washing. So then the next thing is, well, why are we cleaning windows? Why is that our primary thing? Why would we be a soft washing company and not a window cleaning company? Although you can clean windows, that is not going to be the main focus. That's just going to be the side gig while you're there. Right. So yeah, it was. My wife saw that, and so then I said, "Hey, we should change our name." And that's when you guys designed a new logo for us, and everything can be done with you guys. And, that's just, I've talked to other companies that are doing different things, and they don't have it all laid out. And it's like, oh, you got to go, find information. You have to get money over here. And it's like, you guys put it all together where you can do it all. The training.
Definitely a one-stop shop for sure.
Yeah. So that's why we decided to keep on going and with it.
Well, that's awesome. So, you've been doing pretty good. You were on Tribe Time this morning. I just did Denver's podcast right before you. And Denver found this Josh Latimer to Brandon Vaughn to Discover SoftWash just like you. And And it was the good old days, back on when Brandon was still in the network before he sold his company and started Conquer. And so we're talking about that he's also has a window cleaning heritage. You have a window cleaning heritage, and that shift and everything. You're getting some pretty good momentum. This morning you were sharing some of your numbers and what the numbers you're hitting, and how many trucks do you currently have now?
We have three. Two are actually running on the road.
Yeah. So you got two actually going right now. You have three. So you have that third one, so that as you grow and get busier, or if one truck, breaks down or, has an issue during the day, you've got that third truck. You got two trucks running now, and you're getting to the point where you've followed the model, and you've got your facility, you've got your two trucks, you're on the 5-star model, and you're really starting to flirt with amateurizing $1 million. So again, you told me another story about your father-in-law when he realized how much money that you were making, and that he was like, wow, this thing's kind of working out for you. You're really doing well, and it hasn't been the whole time. You've had to work at it, but it seems like really the last couple years you've really started doing well. What would you attribute that to?
Well, you know what? I mean, a lot of the affiliates, they talk about this, that you kind of don't want to, there's a lot of guys that want to start out and they like, I'll do it my way. Or maybe they just can't trust everything until they, like you could say the water is warm, and then until you put your foot in the water and go, yeah, it's warm. You're like, do I trust that? So you've laid it all out. SoftWash Systems has laid it all out, but you actually have to execute, right? The 5 keys of pattern success.
Yeah.
So I think that was the thing, is that maybe it's because it takes time for me to learn. So it's like, I can't take it all in and execute it all at once. So, some of that, is part of this processing, and you learn so much, you're just like, whoa, I have all this information, and then I have to do all this. But, it was like first year owner operator, and you're on the truck, and then they're telling you, you need to get off the truck and you need to have all that. And so you just start doing those things.
Right.
And you got to kind of step out in faith, is the way I think about it, is that you have to have a little bit of faith and do it. And then when you do it, it's going to reward you with seeing that what you're doing is working. So each thing that we've done, it works. And then it's like, okay, let's do the next thing and the next thing. And then you make mistakes. I've hired territory managers and not know when to let them have a pizza party. And, and so I was like, I made mistakes, but then I've learned from it. If I had never hired the first territory manager,
right,
how would I know how to fix the problem? So you make mistakes and then you get better. And so now I just try to even do like, what you call popcorn marketing. We try to do that better now than what we did a year or two ago. And the more you do it, the more it comes back, the more calls you get, the more jobs you get. And today I got a call from my sales manager, David, and he was so happy. He's like, the house that I just it was an unsolicited, sale or estimate. And the lady accepted is almost $5,000. And he's
wow.
And he goes, I think that's the biggest one unsolicited that we've gotten. That might be the new record. And I said, you're probably right. And so, strike while the iron's hot. This is a busy time. You try to go as, hard as you can and just follow what you've laid out.
Now, not everybody knows this, so I'm going to bring it up, especially since you just said that, David sold a $5,000 job. That is not the biggest job that you've ever sold. And so last year, just about this time last year, maybe about 13 months ago now, you sold a single residential home. Now, this was a mansion. It was on a piece of property. It was an estate. Let's qualify this. It was a large estate. Literally, the lieutenant governor was going to be having dinner there in a couple of weeks, and they wanted to get this place spruced up. And you guys sold that house, that exterior cleaning, for how much?
That was $34,000.
$34,000.
Yeah.
And so in the mind of most people listening to this podcast, to think about a home, exterior cleaning, roof cleaning, driveways. I mean, you cleaned everything there. They had the main house and a couple smaller houses and stuff like that. The smaller houses were probably bigger than our houses, but anyhow, it was a big place. But to think that you could do a residential, this was not an apartment community. This was a residential home for $34,000. In your wildest imagination, 14 months ago, 15 months ago, 2 months shy of that, would you have ever thought that you would do a $34,000 residential cleaning?
No, not at all. And talking to the owner towards the end, we got that call from one of our flyers. We just left at his front driveway, and I had asked him. I said, "How did you hear about us again?" And he goes, I think I found this piece of paper in my driveway." He goes, "I can't believe I called it," is what he said. And I'm like, "Well, I'm glad you
Flyer
did."
in a bag with a rock in it.
Yeah, I'm like, "I'm glad you did."
Yes.
And we really took care of the house great too. It turned out really nice, and he was the kind of guy that wanted everything done as fast as possible, and we had the equipment to do it fast.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to be bothered with people there for weeks. And the biggest thing that sold that job was doing a demo. So he was looking at the top of the roof, a big 2-story barn with the weather vane and the piece that kind of comes up with some windows. And he goes, "That was my wife. There's some bird droppings on it, and it's kind of black. And if you could clean that, that would really surprise her." And I'm like, so we got our ladder out.
And you said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. I got our ladder out, went up there, and he took off on his little golf cart, came back, and he's like, "Whoa. Wow." And so he was like, "I'm going to talk to my wife," right? So then we chit chat for a while, and, like 10, 20 minutes of talking about nothing. And then he's like, "You know what? Let's go ahead and do it." Now he doesn't have to talk to his wife all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went ahead and did it. And that took about 8 days. And we had
8 days with how many trucks, though?
1.5. We had 2 trucks there, but we had 3 to 4 people
Mm-hmm.
for that.
So, at the outside, 16 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's about right. I mean, we're trying to do a little over $10,000 a week per truck. And so, yeah, I mean, even if you look at it that way, 2 trucks for 8 days is 16 days. And, that's about right. So that's pretty incredible. But even at that $34,000, you don't do those every week. But $5,000 jobs, $6,000 jobs, $8,000 jobs have become pretty regular for you.
Yeah. I would look this week's schedule. I didn't realize where we were at. So I thought we were, we like to do $10,000 per truck per week. And we probably had 15,000 or 16,000. And I probably still would have been happy with that, coming out of the winter and stuff. But all of a sudden, a few jobs were booked, and I have, a sales manager doing this, and I'm not always here,
Right.
So I came in and I looked at what was going on. I'm like, whoa, 22,000? What happened? And it's a good thing, but I was like, wow, where'd that come from? That's amazing.
Right.
Awesome. And so, yeah, that's that. And then, like one day had like $6,000 scheduled on it a couple days ago. And so
you're getting to the point here where, certainly we're not running, HVAC numbers, or, we all know Tommy Mello. We're not running Tommy Mello numbers here. But, when you think about it, you are the $80,000 a month. 2 trucks, $80,000 is becoming pretty regular for you. And that puts you in about a $960,000 and getting very, very close to being able to capture that $1 million per year. And we reward people at SoftWash Systems for doing $1 million in a single year. And what do we give out at SoftWash Systems?
you get this beautiful ring. That kind of looks like a class ring is what I would liken it to, kind of. But
like a Super Bowl ring.
A Super Bowl, and it has stones in it, real stones, and
So we reward people when they hit that $1 million. So I'm sure you're looking forward to getting your $1 million producer ring here one day soon.
Yeah, that would be a neat new milestone to pass. Well, and I got my sales manager. He's all revved up because he just sold this job, and he's like, "We're going to do $100,000 next month. I want to do 100."
Boom.
I'm like,
There you go.
the right attitude, you know?
That's right. Go for it. From your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you go for it. You know,
Yeah,
you're not going to hold them back, right?
awesome. Cool. So, in the future, when you look at where you're headed with Clearview SoftWash, what is it going to look like 5 years from now? Just paint a 5 year from now picture. Where would you like to be?
I would imagine we'd probably have another location by then. And I would like to not be here 5 days a week.
Mhm.
I don't want to retire ever really. Like I said, I like to be around my son, but I want to be able to leave for a month and jump in the RV, and like I'd like to go to Alaska. And
Mhm.
someone told me that takes a couple months to drive there and spend
Right.
enough time there. And so I'm like, I want to be able to have the free time to go see some things and do some things and with my wife and be with family and stuff also. So I'm almost 60 now, so I'm like, I think it would be nice to have some free time to be able to do that.
It's that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Ryan, I want him to move into running the company and being the lead and me being the support. That's what I would see happening.
Well, that sounds like a plan. Well, you're certainly appear to be, firing on all cylinders and doing very, very well. I know it's not always like that, and you guys have had years of rain, and you've had things happen there, and of course, it is California, so doing anything there is twice as hard for you because California is a very unique market to do business in. But man, it's just a great story, and you just got so much information. We could almost do another whole podcast just talking to you about just the victories that you're having, and also too we could probably just do another whole podcast on because this sounded like a highlight reel here. Okay, tell me all the times, Kelly, it sucked, and we could probably do 45 minutes. And but you're doing well, and we were very, very proud of you, man.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you. I want to thank you. I mean, the reason why we're doing so well is from all you and all your philosophy. And I haven't even mentioned, like you said, I haven't got to talk about our faith and your faith, and that's another thing that really impressed me is this that the company feels like it's a faith based, believe in Jesus Christ, say a blessing over the food,
Yeah.
and that was very impressive to me, and that's another thing that drew me in to it.
It's part of our life. I mean, we don't, in America, you compartmentalize. You say family is family, church is church, work is work, and
Yeah.
I'm going into my work box and hey, we got to go to church this Sunday. So, how you doing, brother? I go into my church box and then one of my family, and we compartmentalize everything. But really, when you're living a faith-based life and you are a Christian, a true Christian, not a Christian by name, but I try to tell people I'm trying to be the Christian that they don't expect. I'm not going to be that judgy type of Christian that doesn't get along with people and everything else. It's just listen, I'm just supposed to be an ambassador for Christ here. And so if you're doing that right, everything, your whole life is one bowl of goulash. It's all in one place together. Church is in there with family, is in there with business, is in there with your hobbies and passions, is in there with everything, and it's all mixed up and everything, and it all touches together, and there is no separation. And we really try to just live that here at SoftWash Systems and be that, especially for you guys. I mean, it's we've done, I think, 16 of these podcasts so far this year, and every single one of them touch on the spiritual note. And I just start to realize, I'm like, man, we attract a lot of faith-based people here. And it's amazing how many of the faith-based people are doing really, really well. Well, I think it's because we don't say church is church and business is business. Church is business and business is worship. And, we're doing our best because we want to glorify God. And so we put, our everything into it every day. And that's why we're successful.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Kelly, man, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And we're going to wrap this up. You have any parting words at all to tell anybody that might be listening to this podcast?
Well, I think if you're considering starting a business, that it and you're wanting to do something where you could start it yourself and not really spend a lot like starting a brick and mortar type business, that this would be a good thing to go to Discover Softwash. And it's fun. If you've never been to Florida, it's a nice place to go. And then you learn, meet some nice people, eat some really great food, and then learn about soft washing. And it can really end up educating you to know whether or not it's something you might want to do.
Absolutely. Well, cool. Well, we'll leave it right there at that. Hey, guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. If you like what you heard, please go ahead and click the subscribe button right below the screen here. And also go ahead and like and share. If you could share this for us, we'd really appreciate it. It'll help us kind of tentacle our way out throughout the internet and introduce these concepts to more people. And hey, guys, again, thank you so much. This is Building a Lifestyle Business. I'm AC Locke. You're here with Kelly King. And as always, guys, go forth and prosper. We'll see you later.